When I say the word raptor, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it a dinosaur? What about an owl, or a hawk, or an eagle? You see, when we talk about raptors, we aren't talking about the velociraptor here. No, we're talking about birds of prey. Birds of prey, which are also known as raptors, are species of birds that hunt and consume other animals. There are many different species of raptors in the world, but they all share a few common traits: keen eyesight, a hooked beak, and strong, sharp talons that are used for grasping their prey. In fact, the word raptor comes from the Latin word rapere, which means to seize or to grasp. Raptors are incredible animals, and unlike many other species of birds, when a raptor is nearby, people are more likely to stop and admire it. Raptors are important symbols of strength, freedom, and power for many cultures, but more importantly, raptors are an important part of their environment. For example, raptors play an important part in controlling populations of rodents and small mammals. Without them, certain pests like, say, mice, could quickly overwhelm an ecosystem. Fish-eating raptors, like osprey and eagles, play an important part in transferring nutrients from aquatic environments to terrestrial environments. And finally, raptors are really good indicators of ecosystem health. Raptors sit at the top of the food chain. So anything that disturbs the plants or animals lower down in the food chain, well, that'll have a major impact on the raptors. Disturbances like pesticides, habitat loss, or climate change can have dramatic effects on birds of prey. In the 1940s, a chemical called dichloryl diphenyl trichloroethane, or DDT for short, was first synthesized. It was initially used to combat insect-borne diseases like malaria. DDT was found to be so effective against insects, it was later used as an insecticide in agriculture and even in home gardens. But the devastating effects of DDT wouldn't be noticed for nearly a decade later. Birds of prey populations started to decline across North America. For example, from the 1950s to the 1970s, eastern populations of peregrine falcons disappeared completely. DDT wasn't killing these birds outright, but it was accumulating through the food chain to dangerously high levels. The high levels of DDT in the raptor's diet started affecting the bird's ability to produce calcium. This resulted in eggs with extremely thin shells, and the shells were so thin they would break under the weight of a nesting bird. DDT was later banned from use in North America, but it's still used in some countries around the world today. So knowing this, it's no surprise that certain populations and species of raptors are at risk. Raptors face a number of threats in the world today. Besides pesticides, climate change, and habitat loss, threats like poisoning and collisions also have devastating effects on raptors. Let's take a look at lead poisoning. Wildlife rehabilitation centers around the world see many cases of lead poisoning each year in many different species, not just raptors. Lead is extremely toxic when consumed, and it doesn't take much. A fragment of lead the size of a grain of rice is enough to kill a bald eagle. Birds of prey come in contact with lead through their diet. Lead fragments are left behind from hunting ammunition and fishing tackle. These pieces can end up in the entrails and carcasses left in the field by hunters, or in waterfowl or fish that mistake lead for food. When animals like raptors consume lead, they can develop a number of symptoms. They might develop respiratory problems, or they might lose coordination, or even the ability to see. These animals are more likely to end up in collisions with cars, windows, or other objects. Another problem raptors face are rodenticides, like rat poison. Many people around the world have rodent or other pest issues, and they might turn to rodenticides for the fastest and easiest way of solving their problems. Unfortunately, using rodenticides put many other animals at serious risk as well. A rodent that ingests a poison doesn't die right away. It gets sick first, and during this time it becomes an easy target for any number of predators, like cats or birds of prey. And once that poisoned rodent is ingested by another predator, well, that animal's life becomes at risk too. They'll suffer from many adverse health effects, and in many cases, death. These consequences aren't often anticipated by people, so if pests are a problem for you, consider a more humane method to getting rid of them, like live traps, or consider letting natural predators like raptors do the work for you. Another problem that raptors face is food waste. Have you ever driven down the road and maybe tossed an apple core or banana peel out the window? You might not see the harm in it. After all, it's not really littering if it'll just decompose, right? Or maybe some lucky animal will find it and get a tasty snack. And that's the problem. Most likely an animal will find it. Rodents and other small mammals are often attracted to discarded food items of all types, and these rodents and small mammals, well, they attract predators. Take for instance a bird of prey. It might have to swoop down to catch a mouse along the ditch of a highway. That bird of prey is at risk of being struck by a car when it flies too close or across a busy roadway. Or that bird of prey might find itself in a neighborhood and it could strike windows during the pursuit of its prey. Every year, the Fawcett Family Healthcare Centre at the BC Wildlife Park receives about 80 birds of prey with various injuries, and the majority of those birds are victims of vehicle collisions or window strikes. So if you find yourself with an apple core or any other food waste in your car, it's best to wait until you can safely dispose of it in its proper place. Interested in learning more about birds of prey? Visit us at the BC Wildlife Park. Hope to see you soon!